Let's be real. Divorce is going to cost you, whether emotionally or financially. So if you can agree upon the big stuff along the way, you can save a boatload of cash and a lot of stress. First, let's understand what agreed upon means in Oregon. In Oregon, if people agree on the major areas, then that's called an uncontested divorce, in legal speak at least. And so this means you're basically in agreement on the house, the retirement, the cars. You're in agreement on the kids, the support, whether that's child support or spousal support. So those big items that are important to you, you both are in alignment on. If you've already hammered out these big ticket items, or if you're really close to agreeing, then you're in a good spot to minimize the financial impacts of your divorce. So now let's understand the costs of a divorce, and let's start with the professionals. If you hire 2 attorneys, that's going to be the most expensive option. And if you're in agreement on the big ticket issues, you may not need to hire 2 attorneys. Unless you have a very complex divorce, then maybe 2 attorneys would make sense. But you would still save a lot of money by using 2 attorneys than if you weren't in agreement. If you're hiring an attorney, usually it's about a $5,000 retainer to start, and typically you're going to spend between $10,000 to $20,000 each, depending upon the complexity and how much you really are or are not in agreement. If you're hiring an attorney mediator, most attorney mediators do offer flat fee packages. So the range is somewhere between $6,000 to $20,000, depending upon the complexity of your matter. And to be clear, $6,000 to $20,000 is a total, whereas when you're hiring attorneys, that's a per person situation. So you do want to compare apples to apples when looking at those fees. Now, if your situation isn't very complex, meaning you don't have kids, you don't have spousal support, you're not going to be awarding a house or retirement, and therefore there's just a few assets here, a few liabilities there, then you might be able to just do the forms yourself or have somebody help you. You could hire an attorney in a limited scope representation to help you with the forms. You could use one of the Oregon's family law facilitators who are free from the counties. And you can also do free parenting time through the counties as well. Now, the Oregon Judicial Department does have free forms as well. And so that is a way to minimize the costs and reduce down your overall fees. Now, every divorce will incur costs because there are filing fees over at the court. And depending upon how you're going to file, you could incur process fees, response fees, etc. So a filing fee in Oregon is about $301. If you need to serve somebody, that's $50. And if you need to respond, it's another $301. Now, the secret sauce there is you want to file as a co-petitioner so you can save the service fee and the response fee. Now, some couples will experience additional costs when dividing certain retirement accounts. These retirement accounts are called qualified retirement accounts, and basically it's a 401k, a 403b, PERS, FERS, pensions, but not IRAs. So if you have to divide one of those accounts, you need what's called a domestic relations order. They're called DROs for short, and they cost anywhere between $800 to $1,500. For those who need to re-deed their home, every county is going to charge a processing fee for that deed. Usually it's only $100, but keep in mind that presumes that you already have a deed. And finally, some other fees that some people will incur are just document preparation services fees. So if you're not using an attorney or an attorney mediator, you may need to hire either an attorney or some sort of service like that to actually prepare all the documents for you and or file them for you at court. And that can be anywhere from a few $100s to several $1,000s. Finally, there are many, many other fees that happen in divorces, but for people who agree on everything, you're probably never going to experience them, such as custody evaluations, psychological evaluations, business appraisals, etc. Those are thousands, tens of thousands of dollars when you add on all those fees. So because you've already agreed upon things, you're already saving money. You might be asking yourself, why is it going to cost so much if we're already in agreement? Well, the truth is, because you're in agreement, we're able to reduce the costs already. And if you weren't in agreement, I promise you the cost would be extraordinarily higher. Tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars more. So many people try to do divorces themselves and create unintended consequences that they never even considered because they didn't know what they didn't know. And why should they? They haven't ever done a divorce before. For instance, I see so many people who are trying to keep the home in both parties' names, and they're going to sell it at a later date, usually like when the kids are out of high school or something. And in their heads, they say, well, we'll just share the equity then. But the truth is, when that happens, it's 5-7 years down the road, the party who's been in the house, paying the mortgage the entire time, doing the repairs, they are extremely resentful that they're now splitting half the equity that is much more in equity than 5 or 7 years ago when they did the divorce. If they had done things properly, they would have assigned out the equity, figured out a way to pay out the equity through other assets or through a balloon payment, etc. And then all of that equity upon payment would be theirs because they were paying the mortgage the whole time. They deserve it. Another mistake sometimes people make is he keeps his, she keeps hers in retirement because they think it's so much simpler, so they don't want to deal with it. The truth is, usually there's an IRA involved, so we can move money from one retirement account to the other, equalizing both people's retirement accounts, and it doesn't cost us a dime, and there's no taxes and there's no penalties. And that is why you hire a professional. So while you're preparing for your uncontested divorce, there are a few steps that you're going to want to take to minimize all those costs. The first step is to fully disclose all your incomes, all your assets, and all your liabilities. And I mean all of it to the other party. The second step is to make agreements on all those major issues like the house, the retirement, the cars, the kids, the support. And the third step is to either do everything on your own or hire a professional to the level that you need in order to accomplish the terms of your divorce. The sweet spot for most people who have assets and kids is to hire an attorney mediator because it's the Goldilocks version. You're going to save a ton of money, but it's still going to cost you some money. And it will save you so much more than hiring 2 attorneys, but it's also going to be with somebody who has the expertise and skill to navigate these treacherous waters for you to get everything through court in a way that is solid and with unintended consequences addressed to the T. So if you find yourself needing a divorce and you want to consult, I have the link for a consult below. During my consultations, I make sure that I give you all the advice that you need for your situation, and I'm not going to hard sell mediation. Some people who don't have kids, don't have retirement, don't have houses, can absolutely do the forms on their own, and I'm going to get them there. And other people have very complex situations with multiple businesses, etc., and they really should be represented by 2 attorneys. But for the sweet spot of about 80% of people who have homes, retirement, kids, they can use divorce mediation, and I'll help walk you through that.